freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence. Yeah, we're pushing buttons trying to clear up the distortion, but it's worth it. I mean, we're going to keep Scott on because this is information we need to, not later, okay? So today, Scott Horton, I want you to go ahead and opine a little bit while we got you on the debate that we're going to have tonight between the GOP candidates, because I just know that Syria is going to be brought up. And I have no idea what these warmongers are going to say and what the rationale they're going to use to make us all afeared. We have Rudy Giuliani threatening to come back into the race. You almost want to pay him to do it. That's just dumb. But we have the 10th anniversary of 9/11 coming up. You don't think he was going to pass up a chance to say Islamofascism a few gazillion times. I think he gets paid every time he says it. So I'm looking at this whole election cycle, this speak. I got that from you, as a matter of fact. 2012, the Ron Paul speaking tour, so if you look at it that way, then I can see more minds getting freed. But I'm telling you, I need to understand what it is that the rhetoric they're trying to get into the minds of the American people on the Middle East, especially Syria of all places. Why? What are they trying to condition us for?
Well, I mean, the thing is this. They want to occupy the world. The military wants as many bases as they can get. Pentagon wants to be able to, oil companies want to be able to dictate the percentage that they make off the top. Lockheed and Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and all those, and for that matter, all of the SIAC and all the Halliburtons and all of them want their. The TV people want to sell soap during the commercial breaks and whatever. So, all these interests basically are the military-industrial everything complex. I mean, you think about it, Ernie, if you and me were partners and owned a tube sock factory or something, we'd be insane to not try to get the Pentagon contract for tube socks. Otherwise, your competition is just getting over on you, and they have a giant step up in the market against you. You have to try to get a Pentagon contract if what your business has anything to do, could possibly have anything to do with them. Otherwise, your competition's going to beat you. So our incentives in this country are for more and more war and for a growing and growing consensus. You look at how right now, basically the only place you can get a job is for the government, either as a cop or as a soldier or some other kind of bureaucrat. In fact, those are the real growth industries, even among government employment, as doing the violent end of it all. So it's inertia. It's a self-licking ice cream cone, this empire. and that's what the military calls it. We're at one of these missions where, we're really fighting to put Muqtada al-Sadr in power. Like, fine, whatever, we'll just keep going. You know what I mean? They just, and so in Syria, one thing that I'll be able to predict for sure from all the candidates except Ron Paul when it comes to these issues, everyone immediately breaks down into simple, glittering generalities, right? Like the most base propaganda. Ron Paul always talking details about, when we did Iraq, this and that happened and whatever, and I told you it would, and that kind of thing. When it comes to Syria, they say things like, hey, our national interest and tyranny and freedom and a bunch of nonsense, rather than actually addressing what's happening there. Like, for example, pretend America, our government hadn't murdered 1 million innocent people in the last decade, and or for the last, few generations. We were spotless since World War II, and we said we're just trying to go help the people in Syria. Does anybody think that would work? Does that make sense to have American ground troops in Syria to help them remake their country into some form of free society, or even allied with America from here on, or something like that? It's madness. So you never hear anyone make a real case for it. They always will just imply that you're weak if you're not for it, or you don't care about people if you're not for it, or that kind of thing. The kind of BS that you use to sell soap, right? This will make people like you more if you use our soap. It's like astrology.
Who are they talking
they can't tell you
to,
what
though?
About Jupiter in the sky actually made a difference in your life, but they're sure that it did,
Who are they talking to? Here we have an entirely new generation next over the last few years, and another one that's coming, along with some other Americans that are even just human beings across the planet, have been awakened to that there's something like the Federal Reserve that was never an issue before, that now is you can't go anywhere without a chant of end the Fed. You have this Bilderberg thing that a lot of people are making a big deal out of, and they want to rule the planet people, and that's coming out like never before. You have all kinds of central banks, even in Europe. Now we have the Central Bank of Europe wants to have the authority and the ability to enforce austerity programs on individual countries. They want their own little, like Hillary wanted to have her own little SWAT team for the State Department. They want to have their own little enforcement arm for the European central banks. Then you got IMF and what's going on there and who wants to be in charge of the sinking ship. And the World Bank. And Hillary, her face keeps coming up on that. And it just goes on and on and on. It seems to me that the population of the planet, anybody is paying any kind of attention, which they all are when their ox is getting gored economically, is they're starting to see, you know what? The status quo is the problem, and the solution is what? Well, here comes Dr. Paul saying, freedom's the answer, what's the question? But I want to know, in your mind, how is this going to manifest itself, this understanding, as things get worse, as the commercial real estate implodes, as our budget goes, as the municipal bonds aren't going to be able to be funded, as the states and the municipalities start to go bankrupt and they don't see any more money from the Fed, as the Fed say, okay, as long as you'll be our boys and girls, we'll go ahead and give you some more money, and then you have hyperinflation starting to go. I mean, just on and on. It's like there's nothing they can do to stop it, but they want to manage the collapse in some way that benefits somebody. And that's where I need you to help me out. How is this certain collapse of whatever going to benefit who?
Well, in a sense, the silver lining on it is that people like you and me are going to benefit because, as you just said very well, it's finally getting across that the radicals were the ones who were right, that the mainstream, the consensus, the everybody knows, had no idea what it was talking about. And look at the mess that they've got us into. And Ron is the perfect spokesman for this. He's character-wise, he's such a gentle old guy, and he just says things like, oh, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're dependent on foreign oil. That's free market economics. It'll be all right. Don't worry about that. And, Patriot Act? No, we don't need a Patriot Act. Everybody knows that. We put freedom first here in America. He makes it real simple. Like you said, hey, freedom's the answer. It's no real radical thing. It's just, being consistently right seems radical outside of the Washington consensus. That is always wrong. But like you're saying, people are getting their head around that. I think he's already running a different campaign. This is not so much only some grassroots insurgency, not like he's being bankrolled by the billionaires or anything this time, but he's being taken seriously as a candidate from the very beginning, and he's acting that way because he knows, and he continues to tell these people on cable TV news that, look, the thing of it is, I've been right this whole time, and if people go back and look, they'll see that if you want somebody who's good on war and good on money and good on taxes and good on guns and good on trade and good on all these things, I'm the one who's been right this whole time. That makes me an outsider, but that's good.
Well, if you want to be somebody that's good on these issues, is there anybody left that wants to be good on those issues? And if not, why not? We'll find out when we come back with Scott Horton from Antiwar Radio in just a little bit here on Declare Your Independence. Me, Ernest Hancock.